Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
This is more important to the police to arrest a person for cleaning up a park than to maybe tell their sergeant, guys, we have a badge, a gun, a taser, and we're dealing with this stuff. Maybe go to your sergeant and say something to them, because you guys need to start speaking up. We're on your back, but you don't got our back. You need to start speaking up to your sergeants and saying this is ridiculous for us being paid how much we are with the amount of equipment we have dealing with people cleaning up a park. So if you want to arrest me for that, feel free.
Happening in this world right now, this is like...
They have a right to protest.
Right.
That's totally fine. I'm not saying that they should go home.
Yeah.
I'm saying lockdowns, when done properly, pardon my mask,
Yeah.
do actually work.
And what does a proper lockdown look like to you?
3 weeks of absolutely nothing. Shut down the entire province for 2 weeks. Then, like, especially the big box stores, Amazon warehouses, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Rebel Media, for being a source of media that's not afraid to ask real questions.
Sydney Fazard for Rebel News. I'm here in downtown Toronto at Queen's Park, where the weekly anti-lockdown protest / freedom rally is going to be taking place. As you can see behind me, there's already a bunch of police officers guarding the statue. This is a common occurrence here, even though there isn't much for violence. Today I'm going to take the time to ask some of these protesters a couple questions, and we're going to see how this day turns out.
I really understand you, and I'm going to hand you the floor. I got the ticket as soon as I walked into the park. Cops were right on top of me. They seemed like a young officer. I tried to explain to him that I've had agreements before and everything. He didn't want to hear it. He just basically said, nope, there's an order. I'm like, okay, yeah.
What were you ticketed for?
Failure to comply. Failure to comply with an order. As I was walking through the park.
Every time someone talks about the Charter of Rights, you guys use that all quiet.
That's either come in or Charter of Rights.
Seriously, man. I'm not right, man.
We're not lawyers, huh? Okay. We are. Why are you doing this?
Exactly. You're supposed to be upholding the law.
Now, I'm gonna tell you my spiel.
Well, you can tell me your spiel after you give me some identification.
No. To state explicitly that unless there is a crime being committed, you cannot ask for my personal information.
I'm serving you with this provincial offense. You don't want it?
Very much.
There you go, miss. All right, thank you very much. Okay.
This is my wallpaper.
Officer Fiskars, why did you fine her?
I just have to ask how you got a ticket. What happened?
No, I just...
This is the police officer who fined this lady allegedly for breaking the Ontario Reopening Act.
I broke the stay-at-home order.
Okay,
so
yeah.
That's, I'm not allowed to be in the pressure.
And he gave you an $880 ticket?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Anybody you want. Okay, time
Arresting you for breaching of foundation.
I do not breach any
Shame on you guys.
and you're not even letting me show you the paperwork. I will, but look at all the people that right now.
They don't care.
And that's protection. I think the
They don't care. They're told to arrest you.
Parce que j'ai rien fait de mal. Je connais mes droits. Je suis tellement canadienne. Plutôt que vous autres, je parle les deux langues. Je viens d'un pays communiste. Je sais que maintenant, qu'est-ce que se passe, c'est communiste. Je suis contre ça. Why do I have to go to the station? I can show you everything.
No, not even. How's he see?
Well, I have to pick up my son. You guys separated me from my son.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the king's, it's like the king's demands or something. Everything's been varied if you let me show you.
Right now, it's not on our systems, so it's not there. Will you sign this today? If you're not signing this, I have to take you to a police station.
Can I talk to my lawyer?
Not right now. That's why I'm trying to tell these people who are the supervisor.
Dictatorial. I cannot visit a sick friend who might be on the verge of suicide because of all this freaking lockdown.
Suicide, you'll call 911 and we'll have contact. We'll have contact with them. You're good to go. You just have to leave.
Can I call my lawyer first?
I'm not going to be here less than 2 the whole time.
Okay, we're done here? Yeah. Thank you.
I need to go visit.
148, $48.
I don't believe I'm doing a crime by cleaning. Oh, I'm breaking the law by cleaning?
You're giving him a ticket for what, sir? What?
Well, either way, you're going to have to identify, right? If I arrest you, you're going to have to identify too. Because we need to know who I'm arresting.
If this is more important to the police to arrest a person for cleaning up a park than to maybe tell their sergeant, guys, we have a badge, a gun, a taser, and we're dealing with this stuff. Maybe go to your sergeant and say something to them, because you guys need to start speaking up. We're on your back, but you don't got our back. You need to start speaking up to your sergeants and saying this is ridiculous for us being paid how much we are with the amount of equipment we have dealing with people cleaning up a park. So if you want to arrest me for that, feel free.
Folks, I interrupt this video for a very urgent message. You know it's only a matter of time before the Silicon Valley tech giants come and crush Rebel News, or at least try to crush Rebel News once and for all. We're not going to let that happen. Please go to rebelnews.com. That's rebelnews.com. We need you to sign up with us there on our website. We need your phone number. We need your email address. We do not share your personal information with anyone else. But if we can get that information from you, you can maintain your relationship with Rebel News going forward in the future.
In this world right now, this is like dirty.
Alright, sir, so I'm going to place you under arrest for obstruct police since you are refusing to identify.
Obstructing for picking up garbage in a park. So you were next. What are you doing? You have to think about yourself. What are you doing?
Yes.
It's not even bothering no one. Not even bothering anyone. This is what police officers.
10-4, tripling east of the horse that
A little tighter. Is there any way to loosen that? Guys, I know you're doing your job. But I'm doing my job as a citizen.
Let's see what the officers are up to. Why are they harassing this gentleman for? We are here for a peaceful, very peaceful, loving demonstration.
Don't ever touch me again.
We pay you with our taxes, okay? Wake up, guys.
And you're not doing your job. You're not doing your job. Your job is to defend our rights.
You're really pretty behind the mask. I can tell. And I'm sure you make a good wife.
You're here at the anti-lockdown protest, the Freedom Rally. Were you always against the lockdowns, or was there a moment that changed your mind?
I'd say the first 2 weeks I thought, okay, it's reasonable, but as we learned more about the virus, learned how we could protect those who are vulnerable while letting the rest of us live our lives, that's when I started to be against them. Probably a month into them I was against them. I've been against them ever since. And frankly, it's outrageous. No one's done a cost-benefit. Has the government done a cost-benefit analysis of lockdowns? I don't think so. They certainly haven't released one. I think if they did do one, honestly, they'd see that lockdowns are destructive. They're an outrageous violation of civil liberties. And so that's why I'm out here.
I think it was at the beginning when I'm seeing like videos of people in China and they're falling over dead, and you're like, huh? Yeah. And then once that wasn't happening, you know, you come to your senses. You're like, okay, this is not what it is. Yeah. Something's going on. The world is opening back up, yet we're still here, same place for a year and a half. Yeah. So there's obviously some kind of mandate that they're trying to achieve. So that's how I'm feeling with that.
Nah, you know, in the beginning, I have 2 daughters. One's sleeping here, the other one's playing. I was cautious. I carried hand sanitizer in every pocket, you know, every jacket. I was scared to death. I didn't want my kids to catch it. I didn't want to catch it. I didn't want to give it to anybody. But after doing research and looking into it and seeing the numbers, things just don't make sense, right? And then the way the lockdowns are, locking down small businesses, closing people up because they're not a big Costco, and you know, big corporation is, I think it's just absurd. The way it's being handled is absurd.
I've always been against it.
Yeah?
Always.
How come?
Yeah. If we didn't lock down in 2003 for SARS, why are we lockdowning now? And I think that people who are suffering a lot because of this, not just children, but everybody. And in my own neighborhood, I've seen so much mental illness that has like risen. People in tents, they don't need to be. And I read a lot, so just because I've always been skeptical of the news, or the news, so to speak. I just don't believe anything that government really says.
The most of point, frankly, here is that before I didn't know things about the harms of lockdowns and stuff, and quite frankly, just to be honest here, ever since I've done my research, I've been against the lockdowns and all of the harms that the bureaucrats and politicians are bringing out here, because they say, oh, it's for your safety, but no, it's not for your safety. And they say that you can be safe with other thousands of people in a big box store like Costco and Walmart, but can't gather with your families for Mother's Day, can be with your friends, and even kind of gather for Easter. It doesn't make a whole sense in here what the government trying to say. So, you know what, people? My message to you is smell the tyranny, smell this BS, because it doesn't make sense at all.
I was against it from the very beginning. I don't believe that keeping people locked in their homes, away from their friends, away from their family, kids out of school, people not being able to feed their families. My first reaction when everything went into lockdown was, I live in an area, Durham region, where let's just say there's a part of Durham region that has a lot of high child abuse and drug abuse. And my first reaction was, what's going to happen to all these kids that are now going to be locked in the home with their drug abusing family member, their parents taking drugs all day, getting abused, and there was going to be no accountability, because all of a sudden now we switched to this online world, and there was going to be nobody that would be able to look at that child and see, make that child and eat. I have family that work in the school system, and daily there were kids that would come to the office, they haven't eaten that day. They were coming to school with no coats on in the middle of winter. What was going to happen to those kids? There was no accountability for those kids. So immediately I was against the lockdowns from day one. And it was that sparked it for us.
The first 3 months when COVID came, okay, the Wuhan flu, okay, everybody was terrified, everybody. And I said, we'll give it 3 months. Forget about the 2 weeks, we'll give it 3 months, because, we want to see where this goes. But then after 6 months, it started getting really suspicious. 9 months is like, oh no, this is really bad. I would have been a lot more protests, but my fiance went through cancer treatment and a lot of chemotherapy and radiation, so I couldn't attend because I didn't want to jeopardize her. But now that she's on the mend and she's had her shot, I've had my shot, so we're good. We're not anti-vaxxers. Get every vaccine that you can get when you're an old person. But I tried to explain to people, when I'm 69, if I caught COVID right now, I have a 1 in 100 chance of surviving. And if I was getting out of a landing craft at Omaha Beach, I have a 1 in 3 chance of surviving. If I make it to the beach, the odds go up to 1 in 5. Ooh! So, I was not fearful of this at all. I'm one of these people, I go to all the medical sites, I read everything from the Lancet to whatever, okay, and I check the science. And I was watching every opinion, none of the tinfoil hat people, none of the conspiracies, none of the microchips in the vaccine. Okay, I read everything. And the thing is that I began to notice a lot of doctors and a lot of scientists and a lot of professors, those who had an opposing opinion or maybe a different opinion, they were being shut down. And you see, that's not science. It sounds like medieval Europe when the church was shutting down Galileo. The earth is flat and everybody goes around the earth. So this is what modern science that are supporting this COVID and all that, this is what they're doing. They're no different than the medieval church.
Is there anybody in your own life who's been personally affected by the lockdowns?
I mean, we all have. I live in an apartment with 2 young girls who, we couldn't go out to the parks for a while. They were all closed. We couldn't go up to our roof. We don't have a balcony. So taking them for exercise, walking ourselves for exercise, you're walking in a concrete jungle here, you know what I mean? You couldn't come to the park, you couldn't do anything. So my mother lives alone, you know, we don't get to visit her too often. She's always worried, she's older. She's coming more to my side though, seeing the numbers and everything, but she's still freaked out about it too, right? Like there's something out there, I'm not denying that, but the measures that you're taking are just not worth what you know is adding up here. It's not adding up.
I've got friends who have lost jobs, friends who their mental health has suffered, friends whose businesses have suffered. I know a friend of mine who put his, a lot of work into building a small business, and it's been ruined. It's been ruined. People's health has been ruined. That's why I say lockdowns kill. You lock people up inside their homes for 14 months. That's going to affect their physical health. People aren't leaving their homes. So mental health, physical health, drug abuse, the long-term economic effects, throwing people into poverty. We know poverty is associated with poor health outcomes.
Well, where do I begin? There isn't anyone that I don't know that hasn't been affected, okay? We've had suicides close to the family. We have people that are, put all of their life savings into opening a hair salon that's been open for 45 days in the last year. We've got people that are divorced. We've got people that are not working. We've got kids that haven't seen friends for a year. They go to school, even when they were allowed in school with masks on, which I'm totally against. Come on, you're gonna have 7, 8-year-olds like this all day. Then they upped it to during recess. So now they're at recess outside, like this. And on top of that, they weren't even allowed to play with their friends from another classroom. If that's not a form of child abuse, then I don't really know what is.
I have 4 kids of my own, and every single one of them have had increased depression. I've had one of them say they want to commit suicide. They've all lost their friends, their activities, their school. It's affected all of us. And being a mom who works from home and has a daycare, I have 8 kids at home every day now, and you have to choose between teaching your kids or going to work. So yeah, it's affected all of us.
My son, he's a commercial pilot. He flew 787s, $500 million jets. Okay, and he can't fly anymore because, the fear is hysterical.
My little brother who has to go to school online with Zooms and stuff just because of the lockdown, the school being closed down.
I would say myself mostly. I have family that are, because they're older and they're forced to get the vaccine because they're in the care homes. Aside from that, I would say nobody has directly been affected by COVID itself, but the lockdowns, yes, everyone has been. Nobody's experiencing a good time with this shit. Part of my language.
Yeah, my family's affected. No, I guess I know it's hard with the lockdowns and stuff because they divided families and stuff.
Hey man, deaths for lockdown.
What are you protesting today?
I'm protesting all the people in the streets.
Yeah.
Oh sorry! Thank you, fat Santa Claus. Alright, take it. Have a good one, Red.
So do you want them to go inside, or what's the message that you want to send to those people?
I'm just having a great day. I'm just here to spread a laugh. They have a right to protest.
Right.
That's totally fine. I'm not saying that they should go home.
Yeah.
I'm saying lockdowns, when done properly, pardon my mask,
yeah,
do actually work.
And what does a proper lockdown look like to you? 3
weeks of absolutely nothing. Shut down the entire province for 2 weeks. Then, especially the big box stores, Amazon warehouses, that sort of thing.
So just don't let anybody leave the house for 2 weeks, is what you're saying?
If we had done that at the very beginning of all this, this wouldn't have been necessary.
You shut down the whole country for 2 weeks, don't let anybody leave the house. What about people that can't afford to do that?
Then the government should be providing enough adequate relief.
Well, what if they won't and can't?
Well, then that's on the government. This isn't like a COVID, this isn't like COVID is fake. This is the government did a bad job, therefore people are frustrated.
If the government did a bad job, do you want them to do more jobs?
Yes, I want them to do a better job. Obviously, but...
So your name's Peter?
Yes.
Okay, and Peter, what's you're with the Anti-Fascist Party of Canada?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and what brings you to this protest, and what is your party all about?
Well, personally, I've experienced a life of destitution, and I know exactly where that'll lead us. I've also witnessed and received the generous, compassionate care from Canadians, and I believe in more an individual responsibility than a government that can't provide clean drinking water to all of its citizens. So I am here to restore a level of confidence in government, and I believe that the term anti-fascism is something that we can unite behind, because so many Canadians have a problem with big government getting involved with big business.
And in terms of the anti-fascist movement happening in, say, Portland and all those places in the States, are you guys related to those movements, or is that something else?
I am not personally related to the movement. However, I do hear the need of the people to have strong leadership on this issue, because we have people like Xi Jinping going to the United Nations General Assembly and saying that his country is the one preserving the lessons learned from the fight against fascism in the 20th century. And I think that we have an obligation to defend the honor and dignity of this country that also fought against fascism in the 20th century.
Great, thank you so much, Peter.
Not a problem. Have a great day, Rebels.
Cheers.
What do you think the biggest misconception is that people have about this movement?
About this movement here is that we're nuts.
Yeah.
That's basically the misconception. I think that people who follow government and put them on hero status, they're absolutely mistaken, because once they're up there, they give up everything for those people. And for this whole year that this has been going on, in all honesty, everything has been shut for how long, and how long will this go on, and how many things are we going to give up? We're not even allowed to see our friends and family. We're not allowed to see anybody, basically, even in our workplaces. I had a family member that came back from overseas from 4 months, and I had to wait 2 weeks for them because they were in so-called quarantine. We're not freaking animals, but we have to be quarantined. And it was all because my family's neighbor, they were afraid that they were going to snitch on them. So we've effectively become a snitch nation.
Probably that they're spreading some sickness and therefore they're jeopardizing everyone's health. But I would really say that people need to understand that they're doing everything that goes against what their health, needs, right? They're not taking their daily vitamins. They're not supplementing like they should. They're not being active. They're being bribed by big companies to eat donuts when they get vaccinated. I would say people really need to come to terms with what they're doing to themselves before they blame other people for what they're doing to each other,
Jeez. I don't know, the easy one is that they think it's, some white nationalist, right-wing movement or something like that, when it's just a bunch of people from all races and genders or whatnot, standing up for our freedoms and everything, right? So there's nothing, there's no real right wing, or there's no right, left, up, down, right? Whether you're black or white or whatever, it's just all people just standing up for their freedoms and stuff. So that's how I see it.
That it's anti-mask, it's there are anti-maskers, there are anti-vaxxers. I don't wear a mask, but if you want to wear a mask and join us, this is about lockdown and freedoms, right? They're taking away our rights. We're not allowed to go to the park, our kids aren't allowed to run around with each other, we're not allowed to socially interact. That's just inhumane, you know what I mean? And that's what we're fighting against, is the freedoms that they're taking away, and people are just willing to let it go, once that happens, it's a slippery slope to, China.
They think it's anti-vax or anti-this. No, what we are pro-freedom, pro-life, and on top of that, let's start asking the media and our politicians real questions. Thank you, Rebel Media, for being a source of media that's not afraid to ask real questions.
I think the biggest misconception is that we don't care about people being affected by COVID and all the suffering COVID has caused. I think people recognize that, but the question becomes, what is the best way to mitigate the impact without having more negative impacts? And I think if you look at places like Sweden, the state of Florida, some states in the U.S. that have taken a completely different approach and have done really no worse than places that had strict lockdowns. So, you know, it's not that COVID doesn't exist. It's not that it's fake. It's that the way we are dealing with it is outrageously bad. It's a violation of civil liberties, and it needs to end.
That's what you came for. You need some songs about sadness and violence so you can escape more. What a vicious cycle we can't break away from. They control the culture, they control the paper. They're indoctrinating a whole generation till the patriots start to hate the nation. The music we love make us dumb and addicted. The news that we watch is brainwashing the children. The viruses, riots, and racist conditions ain't problems, they're symptoms of life in the system.
All right, we're back at Queen's Park. The march has ended. Earlier in the day, there were a few tickets that were handed out. One person actually did get put in the paddy wagon. Upon the return to Queen's Park, there were officers standing guard around the statue, although they quickly dispersed. As you can see, I'm currently doing this from the statue, so I'm not sure what the difference was or why they were here in the first place. Really, it seems like a big waste of taxpayer dollars. They're still in the park. They're just hanging out, waiting for things to cool down, I guess, even though there's not really much going on. People are hanging out, just enjoying the park as you would normally expect on such a beautiful Saturday. Big tech is coming for us. First it was YouTube, then it was PayPal. If you want to help us out, go to rebelnews.com. That's rebelnews.com. We'll tell you the other side of the story, which you're not going to see anywhere else. If you want to support that, rebelnews.com.